Hi there, Prairie Plant Girl here. So I'm out in the front yard this morning and I thought I'd do a little update for you on some of the plantings I've done out here this year. I know some people were asking me about the magic carpet thyme, so I wanted to show you. I planted plugs in my garden that I started from seed. I started them early March and I just planted them up in a big flat and had them in my unheated greenhouse until it was time to plant them out. And they've all been out here for about a month now. So I planted those out at the same time that I planted some of my native plants. So the flower planting pockets that you see around this space are planted up with North American natives and mainly natives from my area. I live in Saskatchewan, Canada. I am classified as a growing zone 3B, so we get down around minus 35 in the winter. And we have a short growing season here in my area. I have about 110 average frost-free days. So there's a limited choice of what I can grow, but there's definitely some beautiful plants that I can grow, and the native plants that can be especially beautiful. And the beauty of those, part of the beauty of those is that our native pollinators have evolved with our native plants, and so they're a great thing to have around for those native pollinators to use. I see all sorts of different kinds of bumblebees and butterflies and skippers and moths, including monarch butterflies in my yard, and as well as hummingbirds, goldfinches, and all sorts of other birds that enjoy the nectar and or seeds of the native plants. So let's have a little look around and see how things are doing since I planted them out. So this that I'm sitting on here is that beautiful carpet thyme. And I absolutely love it, and I've used it to line the pathways of my front yard here. And I've only gotten a small space filled in the past many years, and I've really tried to pull it up because it does expand. I don't know, well, you can see out into the rocks there, but it's way out into the rocks, and I've pulled up chunks of it and tried to transplant it around the pathways over the years, and I have had very little success with that. So I'm going to show you some that I did again this year, and then we'll show you the little plugs that I put in that I grew from seed, and you see the difference in how they're doing. And we'll keep an eye on this as we go into next spring and see if it remains the same. So down here, this big kind of brown dead patch, this is a big chunk, or several big chunks that I pulled up this spring and moved over, and I watered them in and kept watering them, trying to get them to take. They had a good strong root system on the bottom when I pulled them up. And I'll give you a little closer look, but there is some little green patches coming in here, but not a lot of good, strong, healthy growth, and it's not looking very nice through the summer here as I wait for it to come in. And here's another patch, same thing. So had lots of roots, put some soil down for it, and it is growing. There is some coming back, but it looks mostly like a big dead patch in my yard. Now, in comparison, here's one of the plugs I put in. So a really small, tiny plug. I think they were 1.5 inches by 2 inches, something like that, plugs. And I have several. And they're looking a lot healthier, doing a lot better. This, I'd say, is probably the worst one, and it was the worst one going in the ground. I'm really happy with how those carpet thyme plugs are filling in and looking in my front yard. They're not as noticeable as the patches, large pieces that I pulled up and put in, but the large pieces just look like I have big random chunks of dirt or dead plants from the street, and they're just not that attractive. I'm hoping that those plugs do well over the winter, and that's the size I started with when I originally planted the thyme in my yard. So that's the exact same tray I bought them in when I bought my first set. So I'm thinking that they should do well, overwinter well, and fill in over the next few years to give me that full-on thyme pathway that I'm looking for. Whereas this transplanting kind of thing just hasn't worked out for me very well. So they just never seem to take well. This is maybe the best best I've had it so far. Maybe I could rake up some of this dead now and get rid of it. And maybe that would make a difference. I don't know. But so far I'm thinking buying the seeds and putting the plugs in was the better route to go with them. So let's have a look over at some of the other plants that I put in here this year and see how they're doing. So this little planting bed here is kind of the southwest part of my yard, my front yard here. And I put in some Prairie coneflower here, and they've flowered already. They're looking really nice. I have several sets of them in here, and they're doing quite well. So I'm really happy with how they have taken to their planting and settled right in and just started to bloom right away this year. 7 in this bed and a few in another bed, and they're doing quite well. They've come in to flower already, gotten taller, and doing really well. They've really taken to the space well. I'm very happy with how they're doing. Even the ones over here that are getting more shade than some of those that are in more sun. So that's really nice to see how well they're doing. I have a little bit of false indigo down here, and it's looking a little yellow right here in this area. So I don't know if it's just that it's not getting as much sun, or if it's feeling nutrient deficient. Or what's going on with it here, but we'll keep an eye on it. I do have some in another area that's looking a little bit better. So hopefully this is just a temporary thing as it's settling in. So I went through some old footage. Of me planting this and growing this and that. And what I realized is this is what I planted in my planting video, and this is the false indigo that I planted earlier on in the spring, so it's just more established, and that's what the difference is between these plants here. So these are the ones that I just planted a month ago, and this plant has been in the ground for almost 2 months now. So there's another one over there. So that's what the difference is with those. This is the liatris that I planted last year, and it's doing really well. I purchased the liatris I purchased as a bare root and planted them up last year. I have the aster over here. I'll have to look up the name of which aster this was. I just can't think of it. But I put it in. It was just a tiny little seedling. I actually thought about not even planting it. And it really just took to the space and was really happy to be getting out of the planting tray and being planted out. This is Giardia. This is not a full native. This has been bred from native plants. So we'll see how well it does in my climate if it comes back next year. These flowers are getting a little bit old here. You can see how the seed head turns into kind of a pom-pom shape, which is still quite attractive. But the flowers themselves have been very nice as well. So I'm happy with these. And you can see in the background there, that's a little bit of Asclepias. That's Cinderella. The monarchs love it. That's been there for a few years, but it's doing really well. So lots of great natives in this bed. Let's go look at another one. So this planting bed here, this is Giardia, or you might actually know Giardia is a blanket flower. So this is a more wild or native type Giardia. I don't know if I still have a tag in here, but you can see how it just gets a little more scraggly. It's taller. The seed heads are still attractive, but they're not as nice looking, in my opinion anyways, as some of the more carefully bred varieties. So the bred varieties are still based on the natives. They're still bred from the natives. They're just bred for certain characteristics of height, flower color, flower time, that sort of thing. So it's still native, but these are a little more wild. These taller varieties that I think are a little closer to the native varieties. So there is another prairie coneflower in here. This one I planted in here this year as well, and it's flowered and going out of flower as well. There's columbine in here. There's a tuberosa Asclepias, and this has finished flowering now. So this one is an orange type of Asclepias. It's different than the Cinderella. There's what I believe is some volunteer. I feel like I have ants crawling on me. Some volunteer echinacea, I believe, coming in up here. And then I moved this coreopsis. This is threadleaf coreopsis. I moved this when I was doing my planting. It was in another flower bed up here and just being shaded out. And it's looking a lot better up here. I'm much happier with it. It's even flowered a little bit. It's doing really well. There is another Asclepias right here, and I wasn't sure what this was. I'm sure it came off of seeds from one of the others. And so I'm just letting it grow and see what type it is. It looks like it's a tuberosa. And if it is, it'll be a pretty good size to keep right in the front here. If it turns out to be the Cinderella one, then I'll probably have to wind up moving it. But that is the thing I find with growing the natives is they do seed around a lot. So I have things like over here, this is Giardia. But I just pull it up. They usually pull out quite easily, and they're fine to, I don't have a big deal with it. I do come through and cut off these seed heads, and especially with the Asclepias, I usually cut those off as well, just to make it, keep them from seeding around too much. I don't want them to become an issue. Some people don't want these plants coming up in their yards and in their lawns, so I try to be respectful of that and keep them contained to my space. So I have some more false indigo planted in here. I just kind of have it planted all the way around the front here, and it's doing quite well. I have some avens here. Now they're finished up their flowering, and they just drop their seeds pretty close. They don't seem to float around like other, some of the fluffier plants do, so I've just left them to do their thing. There is a little bit of echinacea. It's just the leaves down there. I think it's just too shaded down there. And again, a little bit of Asclepias, and it's more shaded in this area, and so some of these plants are taking longer to get going, and they may never really flower true for me here, but they're trying, so I'm letting them do their thing. I think this is obedient plant right here, and you can see there's some down here, and then the ones back that are getting more sun are flowering more. And there's another prairie coneflower here, and more echinacea in the back. Okay, so apparently I picked the busiest morning on my street to do this. So hopefully the noise hasn't been too bad for you. There's a lot of traffic. There's a city crew setting up now. But I will go through the rest of this here. So I have a little bit more of this Giardia down here. And you see this one's just coming into bloom, I believe, here. And then more of the taller, more wild Giardia behind it. This is Meadow Blazing Star, and it has more like individual flower heads. They're more pronounced than the Liatris that I showed you before, which is also a blazing star. So the one I showed you before is one that is more bred for being sold in commercial greenhouses and things, whereas this is one I grew from seeds several years ago, and this is a more native variety. And I have to say that the monarchs, when they were in my yard about a few weeks ago, they were all over this. And I'll look through my videos and photos and see, but I don't think I ever got a really good shot of them. They're so aware, and they they'd fly away on me all the time. So I don't think I got a good shot, but I'll try and show you because they were always seemed to be on this when I'd come out front. So I had that, and then in behind here, I think you can see this. Yeah, this is penstemon. So I don't know the variety. Someone asked me in my last video, and I don't remember the variety of this penstemon, but I did buy this. I'm pretty sure I bought this at a garden center. So, but penstemon is a pretty good native for North America. There's a little bit of columbine up front here. You can't really see it. What else do I have in here? Well, I have the echinacea, of course. It grows really well, and it grows everywhere. And the bees, the butterflies, I think they're painted lady and admiral butterflies really, really enjoy it, as well as the monarchs and everything else that comes through. I do have some more of the prairie coneflower in the back there, and I have some of my gentian. I think it's bottled gentian, but I can't remember, and I've lost the tag, I believe. I'll see if I can find the tag, but I don't think I have any more. Put the name up, but I'm going to show it to you. It's a really neat flower, and it only flowers for a short period of time, but I absolutely love it, and I should really try and divide it one year, but I'm scared to kill it. But I'd like to have it out, spread out more in my yard. So here's this corner here. There's that gentian. Some of the bluest flowers I've been able to grow in my garden. They're just beautiful. It's kind of a ground cover. So this down here is where the plant starts. And there's more of it going around and under in there. It's happiest when it's getting a good amount of water, but it'll do all right in dry spaces as well. I also realized I didn't update you on the little bluestem that I planted. So this is the west corner of the yard, and it's coming along here. There's 1, 2, and 3 right there. They're not looking the greatest on this side here, but I think it's just drier over here, and they're getting hit with much more hot sun during the day. Let's go over to the east corner, where actually some of the east troughs from mine and my neighbor's house drain onto, and it gets more shade in the afternoon, so it's just getting more morning sun, and we'll see the difference in them. On this side here, you can really see the difference in how they've settled in. There's 1, 2, and 3, and they're doing much better. They're from the same seed-grown plants that I started this spring. Just these get morning sun and then a little bit more shade in the afternoon, and they're also going to get a little bit more water because mine and my neighbor's east trough, some of them drain down to here. So that's the little bluestem. So I hope you enjoyed this little look through and update on not only my carpet thyme that I've added to the walkway of my front yard, but also the beautiful native plants and area that I have here. I don't know if you can hear the bees. Bees are just buzzing behind me here. But this is a space I really enjoy. I enjoy seeing all the wildlife in here. There's often bunnies out here in the morning, and although they do some damage, I mean, they're part of the ecosystem and they're part of the native wildlife, and I try to share the space with them as well. So thanks for watching. Consider planting some native plants in your yard, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.